one nomination, Linda Boudreau, for the office of treasurer. I declare that Linda Boudreau is elected as treasurer by acclamation. Congratulations and thank you, Ms. Boudreau.
Mr. Chair.
Dr. Robichaud.
As this is, isn't it appropriate to have some kind of speech from each of the candidates or now elected officials?
Well, I didn't think I'd take 45 minutes to an hour of my time to give that speech, but I think in lieu of the best interest of the board and the community here, I think we'll proceed forward with that. But thank you, Dr. Robichaud, for that. So unless one of the...
I would just like to thank Jerry Robichaud for being on the nominating committee.
Okay.
Sole member.
I was so ready with everything, and then it went so quickly, I didn't get that done. Agenda item number 5 is policy 209, the Code of Ethics. As we look through the agenda item number 5, the Code of Ethics, this is a good time to review the Code of Ethics set forth here for the board. And I particularly wish to point out a couple things here. During my 1 year as chair last year and as a board member now for 6, starting my 7th year, I'll take this opportunity to address some items that has been brought up to me by some community members, staff, fellow board members, and also my observations during committee meetings, work sessions, business meetings of the board. My goal is to have the highest performing board, functioning board we possibly can. So in the Code of Ethics particularly, I wish to point out items in Agenda 2A, to listen to the opinions and views of others, school board members, administration, staff, and students, and community members. Also, as board members, we support the decision of the school board, even if my position concerning the issue was different. On 2B5, to work through the superintendent, not over or around the superintendent. On 2E10, present any personal criticism of employees to the superintendent. And 2F2, comply with all district policies as adopted by the board. Also, throughout the year, there's always been some questions as to what are school board procedures in practice. So I'm just going to throw out a couple things here that has always been my understanding of practice things, but probably was never mentioned, but we'll go with it with what it is here. So during the meeting, motions and amendments, to really have a high-functioning, crisp meeting, motion and amendments to a motion must be made in proper form as per Robert's rules. The example would be, Mr. Chair, I move to amend the motion as follows. Mr. Chair, I so move. Mr. Chair, I second the motion, et cetera there. Also, amendments to an agenda item should be given to the chair and the superintendent as soon as possible for distribution to the entire board before the meeting. Communication amongst the board and the board in visiting schools. So when visiting schools, make an appointment with the building administrator. Include Superintendent Benty on the request. Requests for information from cabinet and administration should be directed through Superintendent Benty. The chair is the spokesperson of the board. In an email sent to all board members, the chair will reply on behalf of the board. I do reply, it's very generic. I don't do reply all, but I do send directly to the person who emailed the entire board. Unless you want me to include you on all those, just let me know. Inquiries for information and items of information should be directed through the chair and the superintendent. Bottom line in discussion here, the Code of Ethics are commitments and expectations that we as a board set for ourselves. So Thank you with that. Next, we'll move on to agenda item number 6. Which is the school board schedule. So now, for the viewing public, et cetera, we will now go through a series of approvals here. So the first one here is the school board schedule of meetings as presented on board book. So is there a motion for approval of the school board, school board schedule of meetings?
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Boudreau, and do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Steves. And discussion. As was noted last year by a couple board members, normally we do not have a work session in July, just a business meeting, a regular meeting. If a work session is warranted, that will be called by the chair, and also upon approval of all these meetings, committee assignments, school assignments, et cetera. Ms. Kenny will be sending out a calendar invite to place on our calendars, et cetera, so we know when they are. So, any discussion? Discussion. Quiet board tonight. Good. Okay. So hearing none, we have a motion for approval of the school board schedule of meetings. All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion passes. Moving on to item number 7. Committee assignments. So what we'll need to do with committee assignments is, there's no sense, to me, there's not a sense of making a motion. There's nothing really to vote on at this point until we go through the committees and state which board members are going to be placed on here. So to begin the discussion here, just wanted to remind the board here, as like last year, as chair, I did make some changes. There'll be some changes made again this year. But as per policy 213, in reading that, the chair does appoint board members to the committees. As I stated last year, and I still believe this, I believe a lot of our committees are too heavily board member numbered. I think that we're just in an advisory capacity there. Everything from these committees do come as a report to the board. And that's so, again, doesn't make sense for a group of 3 board members to be on a 6 or 7 person committee, in my opinion. I value your time and your efforts with this. So I have gone through this quite thoroughly, and I went through the amount of time some of these committees entail, the complexity of the committees. As we know, some of these committees only meet a couple times a year or as needed. So my recommendation is as follows. The community and because it says we could have 2, I'm not necessarily going to 2 or 3. I'm not necessarily going to go by that. I've gone by in reading the description of the committee and the work that goes with it. So I'm going to make the following recommendations. The Community Education Advisory Council, I'm Cassie Steves, one board member. Finance Committee, probably one of the more complex committees there is, at least for me to understand anyway. I will appoint 3 board members. As I stated last year, I believe that the chair, vice chair, and treasurer should be a part of the Finance Committee, and that's what we had. So I recommend John Bellingham, Chad Wolf, and Linda Boudreau. The Policy Committee. Policy Committee probably is the committee, I was on it at one point, that really does the most complex work. Really, they dig deep, really put a lot of time and effort into all this. There are 2 board members I'm recommending, and that's Linda Moore and Cassie Steves, keeping the same as last year. Facilities Committee reviews and provides recommendations. I'm recommending Chad Wolf and Linda Moore on Facilities Committee. Equity Committee. The Creating an Inclusive School Community, whatever, Candace Knutson, I'm recommending, and Jerry Robichaud, 2 board members. The District Advisory Committee ensures active participation of teachers, parents, support staff, community members in planning, improving instruction and curriculum. Three board members I am placing on this, I'm recommending for this are Linda Boudreau, Jerry Robichaud, and Cassie Steve, same as last year. Our other committees, Insurance Committee, 2 board members. This takes, Mr. Wolf and I have gone through a lot of training on this, and it takes a while to learn this, et cetera, but I'm appointing John Bellingham and Chad Wolf on the Insurance Committee. Negotiations meets or is called in maybe 1 to 2 times a year, and I'll keep the same 3 as last year, John Bellingham, Linda Boudreau, and Chad Wolf. The Wellness Committee, and in reflecting on this, I was on the Wellness Committee, I think, when I first came onto the board, and it was one of the more enjoyable committees I think I've been on. It was a very enjoyable committee to be on, and for keeping staff healthy and positive. So with that, I'm going to have 1 board member, and that's Candace Knutson. The Superintendent Evaluation Committee meets to be determined. Once again, we'll do the superintendent's goals, et cetera, in May, June again. And the same 3 that were on last year, John Bellingham, Jerry Robichaud, and Linda Boudreau. The Falcon Enrichment Education Program, FEEP. I remember as our discussion last year, that's AM Tuesday morning committee, meet in person here. It's a great committee, full of fun, et cetera, and I would like to continue that. So I'll place myself on that particular committee. Alexander Park. That committee discusses what is going on in the park, so everyone's aware of the big events within the districts. I'd like to appoint Linda Moore to that one. The Ice Arena discusses operations and issues within the Ice Arena. I will take that one unless anyone else would care for that particular one, Ice Arena there. And the Soccer Committee, a couple times a year, Chad Wolf. The Minnesota State High School League, I will continue, John Bellingham will continue to be the representative to the Minnesota State High School League, board representative to the Minnesota State High School League. The Schools for Equity and Education, Jerry Robichaud to be part of that, has been a part of that for quite a while, and I know with Dr. Berge as the executive director, that was for that. And then the Cannon Valley Special Education Cooperative, being monthly on the 4th Tuesday there, keeping it the same as Jerry Robichaud and Linda Moore as the alternate. So with those are my recommendations. With that, I'll entertain a motion to approve the committee assignments. Thank you, Mr. Wolf. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion?
Mr. Chair, I just want to ask a
Dr.
question
Moore.
for clarification.
Certainly.
Yes, so these committees are open to the public, correct? Because I've had questions about that, so.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
I know the policy and finance, they're open, yes, because they're a public meeting, yes.
So I just want to be clarified, the ones that are run by Faribault Public Schools are open to the public. There are some on here that are run by the county or a group of different schools. I don't know for sure if those ones are open to the public as well.
Yeah, the Cannon Valley Special Ed probably isn't.
No, Cannon Valley Special Ed is.
Oh, it is?
Yes. I don't know about the Alexander Park, and I don't know about the hockey arena.
Okay,
Those are the only 2 I don't know about.
okay, thank you.
Any other discussion?
Mr. Chair, just one other question.
Dr. Moore?
Has a district advisory committee ever met?
I could not tell you.
Because I think that's an important committee, so, because it does, and I do appreciate the fact that you describe, what this all entails. And one of the things is it entails teachers, parents, and support staff, students, and community members. So I think that's an important committee that they should probably meet at least a couple times a year, maybe, so, even though I'm not on that. Thank you.
I believe it was September.
That you met, that the District Advisory Committee met. Okay. Very good. Any further discussion? Discussion? Okay, all in favor of the motion to approve the committee assignments signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. School assignments, agenda item number 8. So I also went through and went through the schools and noted who had, what board member had a school as a representative, being a representative from the board to those schools. So I'm going to propose the following, and then we can then have a motion and second if you're okay with that. So Jefferson, for board member for 2025, Cassie Steves. Lincoln, Linda Boudreau. Roosevelt, Chad Wolf. Faribault Middle School, Jerry Robichaud. Faribault High School, Candace Knutson. ALC, Area Learning Center, Linda Moore. And McKinley Early Childhood Center and ABE, John Bellingham. So, thoughts on those? There aren't any thoughts. I'll entertain a motion for approval of the school assignments.
So moved.
Give the motion to Ms. Steves and a second to Mr. Wolf. Is that okay? Oh, I'm sorry, Dr. Robichaud. Thank you. Discussion?
Mr. Chair, just a point of clarification of what is the role of that responsibility that board members are assigned to the schools? What's the expectation?
And I'll try and clarify with Mr. Benty as well, but from my vision, and board members chime in, is that that's your designated school. You should go visit it once in a while, meet with administrators, walk around, see with the administrators, see what is happening within the classrooms, with what our teachers are doing. If those schools are having special events, note that, if you can attend, et cetera. Anything anybody else wants to add? That I don't think it's a deep, just for a board member to say, that's my school, or I represent that school, and here's what's happening, and go from there.
Mr. Chairman?
Ms. Boudreau.
I think board members could ask for a email of activities, just maybe a list of activities that are happening. That's always helpful to have, but what I'm hearing you say is we should make an appointment with the principal and let Superintendent Benty know when we go.
Right.
Just to reiterate that.
That's correct. Yep.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, just to clarify, this doesn't preclude us from going into another school or talking to a principal there about something we may have come up, but once again, work through Superintendent Benty and leadership of that building if we're going to do that, correct?
Exactly right. It does not just exclude or isolate us just to the one building. No, board members are open to all buildings within the thing. Again, just make sure that you let them know you're coming and meet with the administrator, et cetera. So, as they have appointments and they're busy, and our teachers are teaching, and a lot of things going on there. So,
Mr. Chair?
Dr.
I'd
Moore.
like to reiterate what Chad said. I think it's important that school board members, even though you have one school, I think you need to probably visit each of the schools at some point and talk to the administrator and to the principal. I think that's a good idea. And I kind of like to do that at least once a year, and so.
very good.
Mr. Chair, also, if I ask a question for clarification, we are there as individuals. We are not there representing all board members. And if there's an issue that comes up, we're not there to solve that issue. We are there as a community member who happens to serve on the board.
Exactly. Great point. Excellent point, Dr. Robichaud. Yes. Any further discussion? Okay. We have a motion and a second for the school assignments. Any further discussion? All in favor of that motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Agenda item number 9, school board salaries. The recommendation is to consider the approval of school board salaries set at $275 per month for directors and $300 per month for board chairperson. Motion for recommendation of school board salaries.
I so move,
Thank you,
Mr. Chair.
Dr. Moore. Do we have a second? I'll second. Chair can second, I'll second. And discussion. Dr. Robichaud.
Mr. Chair, I'm going to vote against this as I have every year that I've served on the school board. I think that elected to the school board or any organization is a public service. We don't do it for compensation. I think I would ask if there are people who will accept this salary, that they consider FAPSETA, which is a scholarship program, or FEEP, to really consider put in your salary for that purpose. That I think reflects well on this board, but I will vote against it because I don't feel that we should be compensated for public service.
Thank you, Dr. Robichaud. Further discussion? Last call for discussion. We have a motion for approval of the school board salaries. All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Motion passes 6-1. Agenda item number 10, consider approval of business office annual resolutions 25-13 through 25-19 for fiscal year 25. So for transparency, board members and members of the public, we are approving 7 resolutions that are annual resolutions for the fiscal year 2025, and they are designation of depositories, designation of official publication, authorization of use of facsimile signatures, payment of claims between board meetings, petty cash resolution, investment resolution, and appointing responsible contract authority. So I'd have a motion for consider approval of business office annual resolutions 2513 through 2519. Thank you, Ms. Boudreau. And do we have a second? I'm sorry,
I'll
Ms.
second.
Okay.
One of us.
Motion by Ms. Steve, second by Ms. Boudreau. And discussion. Discussion? Let's call for discussion. This is a roll call item. So Ms. Steves, if you would do a roll call, please.
Linda Boudreau.
Aye.
Candace Knudsen.
Aye.
Linda Moore.
Aye.
Gary Robichaud.
Aye.
Cassie Steves. Aye. Chad Wolf.
Aye.
John Bellingham.
Aye. Thank you. Agenda item number 11, consider approval of resolution 25-21 designating local educational agency LEA representative. So could I have a motion for approval of resolution 25-21, please?
So moved.
Thank you, Dr. Robichaud, and a second.
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Boudreau. So resolution 25-21, the details are that it says, whereas Julie Hull, Director of Teaching and Learning, is designated at the local education agency representative for Faribault Public Schools for 2025. Discussion? 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 Ms. Steves, this is a resolution, so roll call again, please.
Linda Boudreau.
Aye.
Candace Knudsen.
Aye.
Linda Moore.
Aye.
Jerry Robichaud. Cassie Steves. Aye. Chad Wolf.
Aye.
John Bellingham.
Aye.
Resolution passes 7-0.
Thank you. Agenda item number 12, consider approval of resolution 25-20 designating Jamie Benty as identified official authority for the Minnesota Department of Education secure websites. Do I have a motion for approval of Resolution 20-25?
So move.
Thank you, Ms.
Chair.
Boudreau. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Mr. Wolf. And any discussion? Again, I think it's pretty self-explanatory. It's designating Superintendent Benty as the official authority for the Minnesota Department of Education Secure website. Further discussion? Discussion? Ms. Steves, this is a resolution, so once again, a roll call, please.
Linda Boudreau,
Aye.
Candace Knudsen,
Aye.
Linda Moore,
Aye.
Jerry Robichaud,
Aye.
Bessie Steves, aye. Chad Wolf.
Aye.
John Bellingham.
Aye.
Resolution passes 7-0.
Thank you. Agenda item number 13, consider naming the board's legal counsel and authorize contacts. So we are asking for, consider naming Ratwick, Rosnick, and Maloney, PA, as the board's legal counsel for 2025, and authorize the school board chairperson, superintendent, and superintendent designees to contact the school district attorney for consultation and information.
So moved.
Thank you. Ms. Steves, do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Boudreau. And discussion? Discussion?
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Wolf?
I feel like we talk about this every year. Certainly, I know we have a new school board member. Typically, if a board member or the district needs to reach out, obviously the district would reach out on their own, but if there's something that the board would need to contact or seek legal advice from our designated attorney, that would go through you as board chair.
That is correct.
Correct.
Yes. Yep, well
Thank you.
stated. Mhm. Further discussion? Discussion? Hearing no further discussion, this is not a resolution, so all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion passes. Agenda item number 14. Since we are in the organizational meeting here, we have included two unfinished business agenda items. There is a time for public comment. So we have two people who have signed up for public comment here. So first one here, Janet Moline, if you'd like to come forward.
Mr. Wolf's
Pardon me?
Mr. Wolf's timing.
Either, both of you, whatever.
You got it?
No.
Go ahead.
My
Good
name
evening.
is Jana Moline. I just wanted to review some of the budget numbers and put them into a historical context for the new board. The revised budget has taxpayer funding $90 million and some change. And depending on how you calculate student, number of students, whether you're using an average or an actual number, that comes out to about $26,306 per student, or $29,673 if you're using an actual enrollment number. Kind of a moving target there. Anyway, to put that into context, that is almost 2 times as much as just 8 years ago, when the taxpayers ponied up $60,714,000 for 3,807 students. So enrollment is down, almost 20%, and the cost is significantly higher. Per capita income in Rice County hasn't changed much in that time. So the demand on the taxpayer is significant. I'd also like to look at that in relationship to the educational outcome, which in that same year period, according to the Minnesota Department of Education, is down 46%. I have these numbers all broken down if you want to see that. And I'd like to just suggest that, that we don't add any more non-teaching staff. I reviewed these grants, which add multiple non-teaching staff. So you're expanding your footprint. Your educational outcome is your average is 20.54% proficient. That's down from 44.6% proficient just 8 years ago. So it's to add more responsibilities or more people that are not addressing the teacher's need. I think, it's your decisions, but that doesn't fix your budget issue or your educational outcome issue. Okay, that's all I got. We're drowning. Anyway, I do have some nice graphs for you that show over national data over 20-year period is up about 132% increase in non-teaching staff to students, and the local Minnesota data is up 183%, I think, to an increase in students of only 2% in Minnesota. And I think that should be taken into consideration when you are asking the taxpayer for more money. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Moline. Our next public comment is Leah Inman. Good evening and welcome.
Thank you. So good evening. I'm Leah Inman. I'm a mom of three, two of whom attend Roosevelt Elementary. Roosevelt's actually our neighborhood school. I walk to pick my kids up at school today. This past summer, I was on the Reorganization Committee that explored school buildings and options here in town, and I've written to the board before on this topic, and I thank you very much, those of you who took the time to respond to me. I do have strong concerns about reorganizing our students away from the elementary school with the strongest MCA scores and parent approval ratings here in our city. But I won't belabor that point. I know you've heard this from me in my letters before. I am here tonight, though. I found it really important to come for just a few suggestions. First, virtually the entire committee agreed the ALC needs a new building. And I think this should be its own vote, separate from the reorganization. If it's really not feasible to section off part of the high school as the ALC, which I know would come with its own complications, I'm a teacher myself, just not in the district, then yes, let's vote and let's move the ALC to McKinley and work on that part. But I think the elementary and early childhood discussion can and should be separate from the vote about McKinley's future. There have been multiple staff that I've talked to who've said, it might be possible, given our empty classrooms, to house early childhood in our existing buildings with the majority of functions at Roosevelt. And I think it's something that we need to continue investigating in our decision, because the McKinley decision obviously needs to be made tonight because of construction timelines. The next suggestion really is more general, but it's transparency. So I'm a transplant of Faribault. I moved here in 2008 for this lovely 9-month internship at a really cute nature center, and I decided to stay, and I really love Faribault. We love the city, we love the amenities. For a city our size, we have so many awesome things going on, but I constantly hear negative comments all the time about schools, and they say, you're a teacher, your husband's a teacher, why would you enroll your kids in Faribault? And we've been really, really happy. Our kids have done well, they've thrived at Roosevelt, it's been great. When I do drill down to people and ask them about it, their most common complaint is the board, and they feel like the board's not honest with them. And this is not an indictment on any specific board member, because this is a longtime complaint I have heard for 15 or 16 years. The main things that I would like to see, speaking for mine, is just a public acknowledgement that this decision is really tough. This is a really hard decision, no matter which way you swing, about reorganizing, about building use. I think no one wants to close a school or, move kids out of a school. But is that true for the board? Is that true for the district level staff? And also just about finances, from being on the committee this summer and all the data given to us, I think that this is primarily a financial decision of reorganizing to have more opportunity and more space and shift around money, but it's not clear. Asked multiple times, but don't understand why we cut teachers. But we haven't cut admin, we haven't cut district level staff, we've raised class sizes, we've cut music and art back, but it's not clear if there's other cuts being made. People need to hear about it. I'm sorry, I know I only have so
Ms.
much
Inman,
time.
would you wrap it up, please?
I have so much to say. I didn't think I wrote it that long. I have a bunch of suggestions in here, but it's things like, why are we still gonna have an early childhood director and a principal if Roosevelt becomes an early childhood center? When you're going from 18 sections down to 9 sections, why would you keep a principal? Why could you not reconfigure that? And also just, there's a lot of rumors going around in town, tons of rumors about why this is happening, what's happening, why we're continuing to do this. I think the biggest challenge for most families in town is just that everything is unknown. We know where we're at right now, we know what schools we're at, but there's so many things unknown. And I, as a very regular volunteer in the schools, don't have any of the information, so I know that the average family doesn't. I also will say,
Thank you, Ms. Inman. I
Mr.
think-
Wolf, we'd love to see you at a PTO meeting.
Perfect. I just got assigned to that school, so I don't know what time they are, but as soon
We
as
have
somebody
one
tells me.
Wednesday at 4. If you wanna come hang out.
Wednesday at 4, I have a basketball practice, so if you want to reschedule them for 7 in the morning, I'll gladly be there. But I coach basketball
Okay,
November. through-
let's move
Thank
on
you.
here, so. Let them know. Thank you.
Yeah.
We'll move on to item 15, the unfinished business. 15A is consider approval of the reorganization plan option D. So let's go a little bit of history here and what has happened. On November 12th of 2024, a motion was made and seconded. It was made by Ms. Boudreau, seconded by Mr. Wolf for approval of reorganization plan option D. In that discussion, a motion was made by Mr. Wolf to postpone this option D, the reorganization plan option D decision until agenda item until today, January 6th meeting. That is where we're at. As per Robert's rules 1417 state, when the appointed time has been reached for a postponed question to be taken up, and as soon as no other business of higher priority interferes, the chair states the question as pending. Therefore, no further motion is normally needed to bring the question before the board. So I will state that reorganization plan option D is pending, and we were at the discussion stage, and that's where we will pick up from there. So once again, we have a motion and a second and discussion on this item.
Mr. Chairman,
Ms. Boudreau.
how would you like to proceed? I mean, at this point, can we just reiterate a little bit of how we got here and where we are, or would you rather just take a vote?
We're discussing the motion to approve reorganization plan option D, so whatever you wish to
Okay.
comment on the motion to approve
Well,
option D.
If it's okay with the board, I'd like to just review a little bit of that option. I want to say that, first of all, declining enrollment, fiscal constraints, increased mandates, concerns for academics are challenges most school districts are experiencing right now. Restructuring and consolidating buildings is being discussed both to the east and the west of Faribault. Smaller communities, they're considering the closure of entire schools in one of those small communities that those districts serves. Fortunately, in Faribault, the option before this board offers us much more. Again, I want to thank the committee, those who participated participated on it, as well as the architects of the proposal who did a lot of research. Mr. Benty, thank you, and others. I know there's many, many others. But the primary objections of the Plan D before us was to optimize our educational outcomes, improve our operational efficiencies, provide cost effectiveness and savings, with attention to first addressing the current facilities we have and their limitations and the program limitations that we have, ensuring a smooth transition for students across all grade levels, aligning resources to support student needs and success, and the efficiencies that we will gain. Some of it is taken from the research, but also from speaking with people at various sites, speaking with teachers, telling us about the challenges they face. So the first one I'm mentioning is centralizing the pre-K and kindergarten programming ensures the district broader access to specialized early learning services such as OT, PT, speech, social worker, literacy coaching, and our FACES folks that will no longer have to spend time traveling to several sites each day, but have a home at one site. That was a big component. I've heard that multiple times. Secondly, merging our pre-K and K staff will align our teaching strategies and peer support through professional collaboration, sharing of resources, equipment, curriculum, and staff, which was not possible before. Both of these changes, I believe, will influence the quality and effectiveness of our early learning programs. I wanted to just stop there for a moment because I have quite a few letters, I'm sure all of you do, but some of them express some very important things. One person, this is from Roosevelt, a teacher from Roosevelt. If early childhood was all together, we could create new opportunities for our students, utilize space more effectively, and have group activities between classrooms, be able to collaborate with other teachers that teach the same class as us, which we are currently not able to do between so many buildings. With the EC program growing as much as it is, we should take this as an opportunity to continue expanding our classes and programs. I have many letters like that. You all received them. And I went to McKinley and I spoke with a lot of the folks there and saw what they were referring to. So I think it's important for us to do our research too. I also want to mention that another efficiency, our AL staff will gain an upgraded, centrally located environment that now includes a kitchen, a gym, an art room, which they've never had, and sufficient outdoor space, all of which will provide many new opportunities for our students. That's a big thing. These dovetail with many of our goals, our district and our board goals. Consolidating grades 1 through 5 at 2 schools, while I know it is a challenge, it will be a challenge to move students and move teachers. But I think we have the strength and the wisdom and just the attitude to do it, if you so wish to. It allows for the continuation of cross-grade learning interactions. This is something that's really important at Roosevelt, having the older kids work with the younger kids. You can still do that, grades 1 through 5. It would be wonderful. It encourages sharing effective teaching techniques, and it has a more focused staff development with this combination, as well as the sharing of activities and resources. I have a couple more points. Bear with me, and thank you for listening. Restructuring provides room for increased enrollment at all grade levels and removes the existing waiting list for our pre-K and K. This plan also reduces overall district operational costs, our capital expenses, our maintenance costs, our equipment and supplies, provides sufficient savings for our current budget and as well as future budgets. These are reasons that are very concrete and very clear. And to me, I find it very important that the board take action on restructuring and proposal D. And I thank you for letting me share my reasons.
Thank you, Ms. Boudreau. Further discussion?
Mr. Chair?
Dr. Moore?
Yes, I have my little list here, too. I think, this really centers around needing to move the ALC to McKinley. We need to do that. And I believe that we absolutely have to do that. But it also centers around cutting the dollars in the budget. And I guess my concern is, how is this move affecting achievement? We've asked for research, and I think I've heard it was like 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. Well, I think we need more than that. This should be really based, our decision should really be based on solid research. And I actually got this sent to me from a constituent, and I appreciate that, but I was also looking at some literature. And this was from a review. Did you know that this was, and I have the study right here for the review literature. Studies demonstrate that pre-K and K, when you combine them, don't benefit pre-K. There's really no benefit to the pre-K and K settings. For example, students, they don't gain skills as fast. They don't learn as if they were as fast as if they were in a more traditional setting. And another research finding that they found out in this review was that kindergarten students in the pre-K and K setting, they demonstrate a 1 to 2 month lag in math and reading compared to the students in the primary and elementary schools in that setting. And then lastly, too, the more transitions, and this is from building to building, the more transitions a student makes from building to building is related to decreased achievement. And it's also related to more negative behaviors and less positive student-teacher relations. And with all of that, with this research, I'm really very hesitant about this. If this, with what I have just read, I'm having a problem. Why are we so set on disrupting Roosevelt elementary teachers? I will say pre-K is not mandatory. So why such an emphasis on this, the early childhood? I think we need to be concentrating on K through 12 students and making sure each of these students graduate in a timely manner. It may take maybe more than 1 year, like 5 years or something, but we really need to be concentrating on that and not so much on early childhood. I think we have the 3 elementaries. I think we could absorb some of the pre-K and the K. Another thing is with Roosevelt is the safety concerns. We've got pre-K, I think the kindergarten on the 2nd floor. What happens if there's a lockdown? What happens if there's an active shooter or something? Those kids, those little kindergarten kids, got to come down those stairs really fast into the 1st level if they would have to do that. And that bridge across the, with Roosevelt, I can see the little ones climbing on that. They say it hasn't happened yet, it may not, but these are the major safety concerns, and especially I'm really concerned if there's a lockdown or if there's an active shooter in the building. That really bothers me with those little kids having to come down those steps fast. Finally, bear with me, thank you. From the budget aspects too, from my understanding, like I said, early childhood is not mandatory, and it's free now because of various grants, from what I understand. But what happens when the grant runs out? I could be wrong on that, but what happens? How can we fund this? If it's not mandatory and we're in money, in a money crunch, why don't we concentrate on the kindergarten, the kindergarten through grade 12, like I said? I don't think this would be with early childhood, so many children coming in when it's not mandatory, I really don't think, from a budget standpoint, this is sustainable. And as someone, as I think it was Ms. Moline mentioned, you know, we've got so much top-heavy, and with teachers, we need to really concentrate on the teachers, getting the teachers. But I guess just to summarize, from the achievement level, I don't think we've seen the research on that, and I think we really should. And it is a major disruption, I think, for some of the teachers in Roosevelt. I think also, and last but certainly not least, I summarized the safety concerns. So I am against this proposal. But as I say, we do need to do something with the ALC. Thank you.
Dr. Moore. Ms. Steves.
So just like to kind of address a couple of points. You know, as I've mentioned many times before, I'm the only one on this current board that this decision would actively affect. I'd like to specifically address, Ms. Moore, your comments about early education. Firsthand, I've seen the differences between my children, my oldest and my middle daughter, their education. My oldest son didn't attend preschool, struggled to read in third grade. Of course, you throw COVID in there. My first grader is reading chapter books. Of course, my son caught up. I directly attribute this to early education, specifically Faribault Public Schools preschool programming. You know, I think I've been fairly outspoken on my thoughts. You know, I respect everyone on this board, and I respect your opinions, Ms. Boudreau. You mentioned a lot about collaboration. You know, I'd really love to see some collaboration between the ALC and the high school. I truly believe that we have an asset with South Central College right across the parking lot to really help all of our students, 9 through 12, whether they're a traditional high school student or an ALC student, really succeed in our community using that as a collaborative tool. I do have some concerns about safety. Again, you know, my kids put their snow pants and boots, and I can barely get them down 2 steps. Above all else, no matter what decision, reflecting on, you know, our earlier discussion on our code of ethics is, I'll support whatever the majority of the board decides. I know where my decision is. But again, as the entirety of the board makes a decision, I will be voting against this. However, advocating, if the decision falls the other way, for as streamlined of a process as possible, not just for our teachers, not just for our staff, but for our families.
Thank you, Ms. Steves. Dr. Robichaud.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Over the several months that we've had discourse on this reorganization plan, I've expressed my concerns over and over again, and my concerns have not changed. I am not convinced educationally that this is in the best interest of all of our students, K-12, pre-K-12. I do have some concerns about what we're doing to the family construct that we have in our district with preschool and 5th grade, 6th grade, on up through the line. So I just, and I also believe that the ALC does have a right to an appropriate educational facility. There's absolutely no doubt about that. But so do our kindergarten students have a right to an appropriate educational facility. And putting kindergarten kids in the second floor of Roosevelt is not the same kind of a classroom environment that they're going to get at Jefferson, or they would get at some other building, or even the current kindergarten classrooms at Roosevelt. So we're kind of weighing one group against the other, unfortunately. I also am very concerned that we take a look at reorganization from an economic standpoint. Absolutely, that has to be one of the factors. But more importantly, the critical factor that we need to take a look at is what does it mean for students in our educational facility programs? And so from that standpoint, I have not been convinced, and I've given this a lot of thought over the last several weeks. Again, since this came up for discussion, and we've had this discourse over and over again, I have not been convinced this is in the best interest of all students in our district, this proposed educational restructuring plan.
Dr. Robichaud? Chad, do you want-
I'll defer to Ms. Knutson.
Ms. Knutson, do you have anything to add at this point? No? Mr. Wolf?
Yeah, thank you. And I greatly appreciate all school board members' thoughts, and I appreciate Ms. Inman as well and her thoughts and all the letters that we've seen from parents, staff, everybody. I do want to address a couple things. It was intimated that we weren't open and honest, transparent feedback, and maybe I wrote that down wrong. I feel over the last, I don't know, when did that start? April, May, when we started this process for a second time. I think the big difference this go-around versus last go-around was actually having a committee of community members and anybody else that wanted to volunteer, not just Superintendent Benty and district leadership or district staff. And so, now granted, I'm a bit biased sitting on this side, but I feel like every meeting that we've asked for anything, we've gotten it. I feel we've had an opportunity to ask every question that we wanted to, multitude of times. We've gotten several pages back. I believe that it was actually read here at the meeting that I was maybe gone in October, and the one in September, where we went through question by question, answer by answer, that you were able to identify. And so, I apologize if the community or people in the community feel that way. I feel vastly different on that, and I've spoken to many members of that reorganization committee from the community as well that feel it was very open and honest and transparent. So if I'm missing something, I apologize on that. I can certainly say that I believe on behalf of the board, I won't speak on behalf of the board, I'll speak on behalf of myself who is on the board. We tried to make that as open and honest and transparent as possible. And I do believe that we did a good job. Ms. Moore, you talk about more transitions. I don't believe there's any more transitions if this does pass for students. We have a pre-K, early childhood pre-K, and if this passes, that would go early childhood through K. I don't believe there's any additional transitions for students.
Okay,
You tell me how I'm
all
wrong.
right. Right now, we have K, well, for two schools, we have K through grade 5, correct?
Right, but all three schools we have
No, Lincoln.
K through 5. Three
Currently,
elementary schools.
currently
K
we have
through
3
5.
elementary schools. 2 of them are pre-K
Okay.
through 5th grade, and one of them is kindergarten through 5th grade.
Where the extra transition would come in would be we have the K, or pre-K and K. After those students get done, they would have to make another
So that's
transition.
assuming those students are only at those 2 elementary school buildings. If for any student that today attends McKinley, there will be no additional transitions.
No, that's only for, we've got pre-K, okay, pre-K and K for Jefferson and Roosevelt already, correct? And Lincoln doesn't have,
One classroom
help
at
me
each,
with that.
correct?
For pre-K and kindergarten,
Right, the pre-K at Roosevelt and pre-K at Jefferson.
Right,
We have a lot of students at McKinley. So what I'm trying to
Yes.
get at is the transitions for any of those students at McKinley, that will not change the number of transitions.
that is correct.
Thank you.
but it would change for the kindergarten though.
No.
Because right now we have pre-K,
Right, but if a
Pre-K,
student,
pre-K at Jefferson and Roosevelt, correct?
right.
All right.
A- a-
So for those students, if they
Those students, it would.
It would,
Correct,
yes.
I will
Okay,
agree with you
yes.
on that.
That's-
However, I believe the majority of pre-K and early childhood students are all at, the majority, not all, the majority are at McKinley today,
Yes,
Yes.
correct? Okay,
Yes.
thank you.
246.
You know, we've heard several times, Ms. Moore, you asked, or intimated maybe, I don't want to put words in your mouth, that research doesn't show early childhood has maybe the results or that the data is not out there. Superintendent Benty, I'm no educator, and I will never proclaim to be, but I believe from all the statistics and conversations with Superintendent Sesker and yourself and former curriculum directors over my 10 years of being on the school board, I believe that actually the greatest return on investment is actually the dollar spent on early childhood. Am I wrong on that?
So the research that I looked up, and this was about 2 years ago, the greatest financial return on investment was every dollar spent at pre-K saved you $13 by the time that student graduated.
Okay, so I don't know if that's the greatest amount or not, but that's in line with what I've been told over my 10 years on the school board. I'm not a research person, so I don't know. It was brought up that we still have room with pre-K and K at all elementary schools. I believe during our Q&A opportunities to submit questions to you back in September, October, August timeframe, I believe you said that is not feasible. Am I correct, or am I missing something?
So this was brought up in September, October, and in early November. I sat down with the administrators at Roosevelt, Lincoln, and Jefferson to look at what would those sites look like if they all three had early childhood through fifth grade. With our current programming, it would not fit.
Okay, thank you. I do want to,
Let me clear that up. It would fit at Roosevelt. It would not fit at Jefferson or at Lincoln.
okay, thank you. And I know there's conversations of where is the research, and I fully understand that. But I also believe that, like last year, if we don't do something here, and we talk about taxpayer money and all this type of stuff, and I fully agree with those conversations, we have an opportunity to save approximately $700,000. It won't be exactly that number. But if we have to make another $700,000 in cuts, we're going to increase class sizes and/or reduce programming. I don't know what else takes place there. And to me, that's the negative effect on results. But once again, I very well could be wrong, and I respect other opinions. I do want to thank everybody, once again, that served on that reorg committee that met 5, 6, 7 times, whatever that was, spent hours, did school visits. I know a handful of you were there at every single meeting, and so really a big thank you to all of those volunteers. I want to thank the parents and the staff that have sent feedback through email, made phone calls, personal visits, all that type of stuff. A big thank you there. And I do want to acknowledge Ms. Inman's comments. Without a doubt, this is a really tough decision. I mean, change is difficult. I don't think there's a person that is going to support this that says, yay, let's go change Roosevelt for changing Roosevelt's sake. That's not me. I can't speak for other people. I do support that the leadership of our district, and I do support what the committee came up with, and I do support that the scoring matrix, when I wasn't here, I support what the entire board came up with. And so I do want to acknowledge, without a doubt, this is a difficult decision, as all of our decisions are when we make major changes and/or budget cuts. So thank you, Mr. Chair.
I guess I'm left.
Chair. I
Dr. Robichaud, go
follow
ahead.
up, or do you want to go?
No, go ahead.
I just want to ask clarification. Mr. Wolf, you said $700,000 in budget cuts. How much is that attributable to declining enrollment?
So some of it is declining enrollment that we have forecasted. If you remember last year when we talked about the budget reductions that we would be looking at, we faced $2.9 million last year, and we said we would be coming into about another $600,000. That's still the number that we're going with. Some of that is based off of declining enrollment.
So if we did nothing, we would still be making budget cuts because of declining enrollment.
Yes, that is correct.
Thank you.
Dr. Robichaud? Okay, I'll finalize this discussion. 2 years. I believe it was 2 years ago that we asked Mr. Benty to do a study which would make sure our buildings in our district is as efficient as possible. And we came back with, he came back with a proposal, and that was voted down, and the concern was we did not involve the community, we did not involve the teaching staff, we did not involve anyone and everyone. And so we again directed him to look at efficiencies and come up with a plan, and that committee did. And as Mr. Wolf said, thank you to all those who participated in that and worked on that for quite a long time and came up with this proposal. And it's going to be difficult with here, but I'm proud of this board because you can see the passion here for kids either way. And we know it's going to affect not just kids, our students, but our parents and our community and our staff. This is a big, big decision, and it's, as I said before, it will change the way that where instruction is delivered and maybe how it's delivered, et cetera. I've often been told just because you're a retired teacher, you shouldn't bring up the old days, but in the old days, if you remember, and I will, because at one point, remember, we were so full
I'm older.
that the sixth grade from Washington and McKinley were both bussed out to Nurstrand because there were 2 open rooms. I was one of those teachers. I'll use the word uproar or concern from parents, 6th grade parents at McKinley and Washington was, you're going to put my child on a bus for a half hour out to Nurstrand and bus them back a half hour? Yes, we are. We did it. And a lot of my former students, and what we did was we took the half of the 6th grade class from Washington and McKinley and put them in my class and the other half to Fran Holmblad. And at the end of the year, there wasn't a single parent from either one of those schools says that was the best thing that ever happened. Once again, we met more kids and our peers from 6th grade from Nurstrand, McKinley, and Washington, really developed a cohort there. So I've been involved in some of those changes, and also the 6th grade coming to middle school. There was an uproar there as well. I had elementary teachers telling me 6th grade doesn't belong in an elementary school. They know too much. They're too mature. We went to middle school. Then we were on the low end of the young end of all of that. But they adapted and parents adapted. And of course the concern was my child's going to get lost. I'm looking at one of my former students here. Here. It's a big place, but with our teaming, all this, we were right in the hallway. We were all there. Again, I don't know of hardly a single parent or student that can't say they did not have a good experience at Faribault Middle School. You put your heart and soul to it. So this board is going to have having a very difficult decision to make. And I truly believe that, as Mr. Wolf said, we've been very transparent. All questions could have been asked. We've taken our time. At one point, I told Mr. Benty we will have a decision by September. I guess my calendar isn't very good, is it, Mr. Benty? But again, to come to January, just to make sure we've done a thorough job, we've turned over every rock, every question, I certainly hope. In any decision you make, I don't believe you cannot have every little detail laid out exactly as you want. So with that, it's an interesting concept. Are we not servicing students on the east side? Homeschool on the east side? Well, as I stated, from Faribault Transportation, anywhere from 75 to 85% of the students at Roosevelt are bused in or have the opportunity to be bused in. We know that with the closure of Garfield and McKinley, that the concept of neighborhood schools was gone in those areas as well. Either went to Jefferson, Roosevelt, Some went out to Nurse Strand when they were part of us. So it is indeed a difficult decision. Again, thank you to all that were part of this, whatever, but the bottom line is, we now need to make a decision. We've delayed this, we've, I believe, done our due diligence, whatever, so at this time, I'm going to call for a vote, and I'm going to ask for a roll call vote. So the motion has been presented as approval of reorganization plan option D as presented. So Ms. Steves, if you would do a roll call, please.
Linda Boudreau,
Aye.
Janice Knudsen,
Aye.
Linda Moore,
Nay.
Jerry Robichaud,
Nay.
Bessie Steves, no, Chad Wolf,
Aye.
John Bellingham,
Aye.
passes 4-3.
Thank you. And again, a very heartfelt thank you to fellow board members, to staff who worked on this, and to the public who worked on this as well. 15B, consider authorizing McKinley remodel bids. So could I have a motion for the authorizing of McKinley remodel bids, please?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Wolf, and do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Boudreau. In this motion, the McKinley remodel will consist of a remodeled classroom for science and art. All bathrooms will be remodeled and brought up to code. The kitchen will be remodeled and brought back up to code in order to serve hot food to those students. Discussion. Discussion? Discussion? Hearing none. All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0. We move on to, before we get to item 16, adjournment, I have just a couple of announcements here. First of all, in recognizing our new board members, I'd also like to recognize our student board members. So what I'm going to ask you to do, let's see, we have a new one as well. What I ask you to do is grab the microphone and introduce yourself and what grade you're in and just some general things about yourself. So,
No, it's on.
Hello, my name is Isa Ali. I am currently a junior, so I'm in 11th grade, and I am very happy to be on the school board. I've been thinking about it since sophomore year, and that's pretty much it. I mean, I've been in Faribault since first grade. I've really enjoyed it from whether I've been to all three elementary schools, the middle school, and as of right now, the high school for 3 years, going on 3 years. And I just wanted to say that you guys are doing a great job and keep it going.
thank you.
Welcome.
And Ms. Jillian, yes.
Oh, okay. My name is Jillian Huberty. I am a senior. I've been on the school board since sophomore year, 3 years now. And I love it. I love being a part of it. If you know me, you know I want to go into politics, so this is fun for me. And yeah, what Issa said, you guys are doing a great job. Keep it up.
Very good. Thank you.
Welcome.
Also, for board members, I would like for you to watch for an email from Ms. Kenny, as I'm going to be asking her to send out a survey of possible dates and times for retreats. Yes, that was plural. Retreats, anytime within the next 2 to 3 months, 4 months. My purpose here is I believe we have some vision statements and vision to go over, to review. Our strategic plan is, I believe, in our 7th year, probably needs to be reviewed, and hopefully with our discussion things in those retreats, we can get down to our main objective, and that is student achievement, and how we can help our students achieve at the highest level here in Faribault Public Schools. So be on the watch for that email from Ms. Kenny.
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Wolf.
will, last year we engaged with
Yes, Studer Education.
Studer Education. Will they be involved in these? I believe we waited until the new board was seated
Right.
to start this. So will they be involved with these retreats and planning?
I think that the plan will be for the board to decide what it is it's looking to accomplish first, and then I will work with Studer. They do work on strategic plans. They do work on mission statements, if that's the way the board chooses to go, and they will work on goal setting as well. So, but they want to make sure that they have as much information coming in so that they can prepare for that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Excellent. And then just a reminder, our next meeting, regular meeting is January 27th. I don't have in front of me any committees happening this week, but just as a reminder for that. Board members, thank you for a very efficient and timely meeting here. So at this time, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Wolf. And do we have a
Second.
second? Thank you, Ms. Boudreau. Discussion. Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Oppose? Motion passes. We are adjourned. Thank you all.